Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a case that is, well, it's just heartbreaking.
It really is.
It's a story that really highlights what can happen when children are failed by the people meant to protect them. Our main source here is a YouTube video transcript detailing the investigation.
Yeah, and our goal really is to walk you through this story step by step, just as it unfolded for the investigators. We'll start, with that first report of a missing child.
Yeah.
And follow that path through some really unsettling discoveries, the evidence gathering, and eventually the pursuit of justice. We want to pull out those critical pieces of information for you, really focusing on how the story developed.
Understanding how the truth came out piece by piece.
Exactly. And the difficult realities this case brings up about vulnerability and hidden abuse.
And this tragic story, it really kicks off on November 21st, 2021.
That's right. That's the day the 911 call came in. Gwinnett County, Georgia. It was Brittany Hall reporting her daughter, Nicole Amari Hall. She went by Amari, was missing.
She was 8 years old.
8 years old, and she was autistic, which, immediately raises the urgency.
Absolutely. And it was cold weather too, wasn't it?
Very cold. So you have a vulnerable child, freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
It's a critical situation right away. The police response was immediate, all hands on deck, a major search effort.
At the place they were living, this extended stay hotel, that probably raised some questions right away.
Yeah, the sources mention it as a potential red flag. You have the mother, Brittany Hall, her girlfriend, Celeste Owens, Amari, and two younger siblings, 6 and 5 years old, all in one hotel room.
That sounds cramped.
And isolated. The report mentioned the children were homeschooled.
So not much interaction with teachers, other kids.
Exactly. Very few outside eyes on that family unit in that particular environment. It's a significant detail to keep in mind as things unfold.
Because almost immediately when police started talking to Brittany Hall and Celeste Owens, their stories about what happened just before Amari went missing, they started to fall apart.
That's what the sources said. They used the term unravel. Their accounts, especially about the day before, November 20th, when Amari was supposedly last seen, just weren't lining up.
What kind of inconsistencies are we talking about?
Well, for one, Celeste Owens claims she was with her sister on the 20th.
Okay.
But when police talked to the sister, totally different story. Didn't match up at all.
That's a pretty big inconsistency right there.
A huge one. And Celeste also said she was asleep, and that Brittany woke her up just as she was dialing 911. Little details like that, when they don't quite fit, they become these big flags for investigators.
And then the surveillance footage. That must have been key.
Absolutely crucial. Police pulled footage from everywhere. The hotel, nearby businesses, a car wash, extensive review. And this is where the suspect's story completely collapses.
What did it show? Or rather, what didn't it show?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No sign of Amari walking out of that hotel, nothing. And maybe even more telling, no footage of Brittany Hall searching the parking lot or grounds for her daughter, even though she claimed she was out there looking.
Wow, so the video directly contradicts what they were saying.
Directly. For the police, that's a chilling moment. It tells them this isn't just a child who wandered off. The people reporting her missing are not being truthful about their own actions right before that 911 call.
So the adults' stories aren't adding up. The video contradicts them. Where do investigators go next?
Well, there were other people in that room. Amari's younger siblings, Zaire, who was 6, and Jakari, who was 5.
Talking to kids that young about something like this must be incredibly difficult.
Extremely. But their statements became absolutely critical. The source described what they said as somewhat disturbing.
What did they say?
Zaire, the 6-year-old, she told police that Celeste, who the kids apparently called Dad, had taken Amari away.
Taken her where?
To a bad kids hospital. That's the phrase she used, because Amari had misbehaved, and Zaire said Amari wasn't coming back.
Oh my God. A bad kids hospital.
Yeah. And Jakari, the 5-year-old, he mentioned something similar. A man putting Amari in a dark room at a hospital for bad kids.
What did Celeste say when they confronted her with that?
Well, she admitted she used phrases like, if you can't listen, you're going to go to this place, when Amari acted out. But she denied actually taking Amari anywhere or knowing about a specific bad kids hospital.
And she tried to dismiss it.
She did. She reportedly said, kids also lie.
That's chilling. Especially given what the kids were describing.
It's incredibly telling, that dismissal in the face of her stepchildren talking about this hospital right after Amari disappears.
And even before hearing from the kids, the officers had concerns about the younger siblings themselves, didn't they?
They did. Early on, during that initial contact, they noted that Zaire and Jakari appeared possibly abused, maybe malnourished.
They saw physical signs.
Yes, the report mentions visible bruises on the children. Zaire had bruises on her back, her eye, her face.
And Brittany and Celeste
Denied knowing how they got there. Just don't know.
It really paints a grim picture of that hotel room environment. The source called it a powder keg.
Yeah, psychologically. Just an unstable, unsuitable, unsafe place to be raising 3 young children, especially one with challenges like Amari's.
So, as all this is coming to light on November 22nd, the day after the report.
Right, the evidence is mounting, the stories are falling apart,
Yeah.
the police investigation makes a formal shift.
From missing person to
Homicide. They now believe they're investigating Amari's death, not just her disappearance. The truth was clearly much, much darker.
Okay, so now it's a homicide investigation. They need to figure out what happened and when. How did they track the suspect's movements?
This is where the digital trail becomes so important. Technology really provided some critical pieces here.
Like what?
Well, investigators looked into Celeste Owens' activities before the 911 call, and they found surveillance video and receipts showing she rented a U-Haul truck.
A U-Haul? When?
On November 19th.
Wait, November 19th. Amari wasn't reported missing until the 21st. That's 2 days before.
Exactly. Highly suspicious timing.
Did they know where she went with the U-Haul?
They did. Her cell phone pings were crucial. They tracked her phone from the hotel to the U-Haul rental place, then into DeKalb County, which is a neighboring county, then back to the U-Haul return, and then back to Gwinnett County, where the hotel was.
And they could confirm the truck's movements, too.
Yeah, they use something called the flock camera system. It's a network of cameras that specifically read license plates.
Ah, okay.
So those cameras captured the U-Haul's license plate, confirming its movements along that route that matched her phone pings.
So they had a digital map, basically, of where she went with that U-Haul 2 days before reporting Amari missing.
Pretty much a digital breadcrumb trail.
And following that trail led them to the worst possible discovery.
Yes. On November 22nd, around 10:45 in the morning, investigators following that trail made the discovery.
They found Amari.
They found Amari's body in a wooded area near the Stone Mountain Freeway in DeKalb County, the same county her phone had pinged in.
No.
She was found wrapped in garbage bags. There was also a piece of cloth used, seemingly to anchor or weigh down the body, a clear, awful attempt to hide her.
I can't even imagine finding that. The officers.
The source mentions the significant emotional toll, described it as tugs at your heartstrings. Understandably.
And the medical examiner confirmed how she died.
Yes. The findings were horrific. Cause of death, multiple blunt force injuries. Multiple. Essentially, the report states she was beaten to death.
God.
The autopsy detailed extensive injuries, fractured bones, and also confirmed signs of malnutrition. The manner of death was ruled a homicide.
And there was more, wasn't there? Something about prolonged abuse.
Yes, critically, the ME noted 2 other significant contributing factors: battered child syndrome and malnutrition.
Battered child syndrome. What does that mean clinically?
They explained it for the jury. It means fighting multiple injuries on different parts of the body, and this is key in different stages of healing.
So old bruises, new bruises, broken bones healing.
Exactly. It's physical evidence that the abuse wasn't a one-time event. It was prolonged, happening over time. Amari had been suffering for a while.
So with Amari found, the cause of death established, the evidence of long-term abuse clear, the focus shifts to justice.
Right. Arrests followed quickly. Celeste Owens was arrested on November 22nd, the same day Amari was found.
And Brittany Hall.
The next day, November 23rd.
And the charges evolved from just false statements initially.
Oh, yes. Much more serious charges were filed later. Celeste Owens faced felony murder for Amari's death, first-degree cruelty to children for the injuries to Zaire and Jakari, those false statements, and hindering the investigation by hiding the body.
And Brittany Hall, the mother.
She was charged with concealing the death, felony murder, malice murder, which implies intent, and child abuse charges as well.
Why were their trials separate?
They were severed or split. The prosecution decided to try Celeste Owens first. Part of the reason was that Brittany Hall apparently made a second statement to police later on, blaming Celeste.
Ah, and you can't use one defendant's statement against the other in a joint trial if they aren't testifying.
Exactly. So they had to separate the trials. Brittany Hall is still incarcerated, waiting for her trial date.
So let's talk about Celeste Owens' trial. The prosecution, the source said, had a tremendous advantage.
You could say that. I mean, the nature of the crime, the death of a child, the abuse of her siblings, naturally creates a lot of sympathy for the victims. But beyond that, they had such strong evidence.
Right, the surveillance video contradicting their story.
The U-Haul rental, the cell phone pings tracking her movements, the flock camera data on the truck.
The autopsy report showing the horrific injuries and battered child syndrome.
And the crime scene photos. It was a mountain of evidence pointing towards guilt.
But then there's that other evidence, the videos from Celeste's own phone. That's just beyond belief.
It's truly one of the most disturbing aspects. Investigators found videos recorded by Celeste Owens herself showing her and Brittany Hall abusing the children.
Actually recording it.
Recording it. The source says over a dozen abuse videos were found. They played one, about 90 seconds long, for the jury apparently too disturbing to release publicly. It showed Amari being slapped so hard her head swung back.
Why would someone record that?
The source used the word sadistic. It suggests something beyond just the act of abuse itself, this need to, quote, memorialize it. It's horrifying to contemplate.
Absolutely horrifying. And the witnesses, Amari's little sister, Zaire, testified.
She did. She was 9 by the time of the trial. She testified off camera, protecting her identity.
Her initial statement about the Bad Kids Hospital was so crucial. How did she do on the stand?
Her testimony was described as wildly impactful. She talked about their life in that hotel room. No toys, just staring at walls, sleeping on the floor.
Just heartbreaking details.
And she recounted that last night she saw Amari. She remembered toilet paper being put in Amari's mouth.
Oh, God.
And Amari not waking up the next day.
Yeah.
Being put in a container. Taken away to the Bad Kids Hospital. Zaire even showed the jury marks on her own back from being hit.
For you listening, just imagine the courage of that little girl.
Incredible courage. And her testimony carries immense weight, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Young children testifying about such specific traumatic details. Juries tend to find that very credible. These aren't things a 9-year-old easily invents, especially details that align with other evidence. It powerfully corroborated the abuse at Amari's final hours.
Amari's grandmother, Barbara Wright, Brittany Hall's mother, she testified too.
Yes. Her testimony offered a stark contrast. She described Amari before she went to live with Brittany and Celeste.
What was she like then?
Vibrant, happy, loved her grandma's cooking, no behavioral problems at school or at home. Just a regular, happy little girl. This was late 2020, early 2021.
But then she lost contact.
For months, yes. She testified about trying to call, text Brittany, getting a little response, even driving around looking for them.
And the defense challenged her on that. Why she didn't report them missing.
They did. It was a tough cross-examination. Why wait 8 months? Did she know about Amari's autism? She said no. Did she know about abuse? She said she only learned about the physical abuse when the videos hit the news.
Did she explain why she didn't call the police sooner?
She gave a really poignant reason. She said her judgment was clouded by fear. Fear that if she pushed too hard or involved authorities, Brittany would cut her off completely and she'd never see the kids again.
Wow.
She called it one hell of a trade-off. It speaks volumes about the isolation and control happening there.
And the medical examiner's testimony must have been brutal for the jury.
Necessary, but brutal. Graphic photos showing the extent of Amari's injuries, those different stages of healing. It drove home the diagnosis of battered child syndrome and the prolonged suffering. The Emmy made it clear. It was the totality of these injuries that killed her.
And finally, those deleted web searches from Celeste's phone, from before Amari was reported missing.
Right. From November 19th, the same day she rented the U-Haul. The prosecution presented this as strong evidence of consciousness of guilt. Evidence she knew she'd done something wrong and was already thinking about covering it up.
What kind of searches?
Things like, why do kids run away? How do I report someone missing? What to do if a loved one goes missing? Why is it so hard to find missing people?
Researching how missing persons cases work.
Exactly. And also searches like how the sewers work and lakes near me.
Looking for ways to dispose of a body.
That's certainly the implication the prosecution drew. Researching how to report someone missing, why kids run away, and possible disposal sites 2 days before the 911 call, and then deleting those searches. It's like leaving a map of your guilty mind.
With all of that laid out, the jury didn't take long.
Relatively quick verdict, yes. Guilty on all counts. Malice murder, felony murder counts, cruelty to children, everything.
Did Amari's grandmother speak at the sentencing?
She did. A victim impact statement, just expressing profound heartbreak, how much she misses Amari, all the things they won't get to do, learning to drive, prom, just watching her grow up. Incredibly moving.
And the judge.
His words are powerful. He called the crime the most heinous evil he'd seen in 25 years on the bench. Said it was something that could never be understood or forgotten.
What was the sentence for Celeste Owens?
Life without the possibility of parole for the malice murder. Plus, An additional 235 consecutive years for the other counts.
So she will absolutely never get out.
The judge's words were, she will never see the light of day.
A case like this, the investigators, the prosecutors, it must take a heavy toll.
Immense. The source mentioned some involved had nightmares. It was described as one of the worst child abuse cases, specifically because the evidence showed such extensive long-term torture.
Is there anything positive to take away from something so awful?
Well, the source does offer one point of light, if you can call it that. Amari's siblings, Zaire and Jakari. They were rescued.
Where are they now?
They're living with their grandmother and grandfather, Barbara Wright and her husband. And reportedly, they're doing very well. They're safe, they're loved, and they have a chance to heal and grow up protected. That rescue is the one piece of comfort in this.
So this deep dive into Amari Hall's story, it's incredibly difficult, but it really does expose the horrific reality of what can happen behind closed doors, especially when children are isolated.
It does. And it shows how investigators use every tool, inconsistencies in stories, video footage, digital trails like phone pings and web searches to piece together the truth, even when it's deeply hidden.
For you listening, maybe this case underscores the importance of community awareness, of looking out for vulnerable children. And it highlights the incredible bravery of those like Zaire and her grandmother who speak up, even when it's terrifying.
Their courage ultimately helped bring unimaginable cruelty to light.
Thank you for listening to Justice for the Souls podcast.